What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is the young man that was born with a ball in his crib. He comes from a basketball family, a young and bright assistant coach with a great basketball mind, excellent talent evaluator, a future head coach in this business in my eyes, and he's actually voted by his peers as one of the top 5 assistant coaches in his league in the Southwest Athletic Conference. So, and at the same time, he's a native of Roanoke, Virginia. So anytime a guy from my home state, I always try to show them love. And it's a guy probably known for a few years now, and was a big fan of his dad growing up. I always tell him how his dad was a legend. But when Ryan Price is who's on the show today, and I read a little bit about Ryan bio. He was fortunate to actually play for his dad for 3 years at McNeese State. And then he finished up at Henderson State in 2007. Actually finished up at that first semester. He graduated and then had a chance to go right into coaching. And I'm not shocked at that at all. Coached at Gannon University 2007 to 2009. From there, he went on to University of Arkansas Fort Smith for 2 years. In the tradition there of winning. They were successful there. And then he goes to Southern University from 2011 to 2014, his first stint at Southern University. And then he goes to Prairie View A&M for a year during the 2014-15 season. And he goes to Fallbrook Prep during the 15-16 season. So he goes into high school, into the prep situation. And then in the 16-17 season, he goes back to Southern University, this time in an administrative role of director of player and development, for the program. Goes back to high school coaching in the 17-18 year at the Church Academy. And then Ryan decides to come back, where he's president now for the last 2 years, working on year 3 with Coach Woods at Southern University. I want to welcome to the show a guy, man, that I've known him, but I've actually got to know him. And it probably started around April 25th. So for the last, several months, we've been together probably 3, 4, if not 5 times a week on these Zooms, and spending a lot of time, talking after the Zoom. But, it's great to just get to know a person like Ryan. So I want to welcome to the show, Ryan Price.
LB, man, thank you for having me. I'm ready to get unmasked, man.
Yes, sir, man. Well, hey, you saying that, we will get right to it, man. Ryan, like I said, man, your situation is a little different. Like when I talk about basketball family, I talk about you going with the ball in your crib, and I'm not saying you were going to be a coach, but I'll probably say you were going to be a coach. There's no handbook to being a college coach. I mean, tell me about, man, your first day, first week, first month after things are done with human resources, because I know your story is a little different. You finished playing, going right to coaching, almost all in the same semester. Especially and I'm gonna say this: you got a little direction because your dad had been in the business a long time. Your dad was an assistant for a long time, a head coach. But you've had some direction, but now you got to build your own. You got to create your own niche. You're not your father, and you're not anyone else that you've learned from or been around. But talk about that, man. Like, what was your experience like?
Well, it's like you kind of say what you said, LB. Like I tried to go ahead and create my own niche in this business and kind of do things really on my own accord, more so than just trying to use my name, my last name to get me into certain positions. But when I got into the business, my story is a little different. I finished playing, and then I became actually a student assistant in the fall at Henderson State. And then I I would say about October, I got a phone call from the head coach again at University, John Riley, and he was looking for an assistant coach. He had just lost an assistant who had took another job literally like a week before practice started. And so I got that opportunity. I was like, listen, coach, I'm honored, I'm excited, but I haven't finished school. I still got 2 months left and I got to knock out these last 6 hours. He said, well, I'm going to leave that position open for you. I'm going to leave that opportunity open for you. The job is yours. I said, well, if the job's mine, I'm going to take it. He said, well, I'm going to wait, and I'm going to keep this job in place for you. And once you finish up, just head on up here to Pennsylvania. So I got that. And so it was a little different because it was in season. So, the team had already played about 7 games, and at that point, there's not much that you can really do within the first week or month of the job, especially if you're in season. You got to kind of learn as things go. You got to learn how a coach wants things done and how he handles things. So a lot of my responsibility going right into the door was, recruiting, which I had to learn as time went on. And then I had to also kind of learn, it was a different thing. I had to kind of learn some of the administrative stuff, managerial things. I would almost say, because I came in the middle of the year, and my head coach at the time, John Riley, it kind of was almost like a glorified manager almost. So I had to do all the odds and ends. I had to wash uniforms, had to do all that kind of stuff, stay up all night doing that, going, checking our rooms, just things that sometimes, that managers do. And so, I'm looking at, I just finished playing basketball in March, and 8 months later, I'm up here washing uniforms. So it was a different type deal for me. It was an adjustment, but I got through it. So, and it taught me a lot. And as the story or time goes on, as we talk, I'll explain more about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, awesome. Like, at least, but you got a shot right away, so that's a good thing. Some of these guys are getting administrative roles, like, they don't get the chance you got. Even though you were, doing those things, you still got a chance to do some other things. So that's a plus for you, and it gave you a lot of experience. So I would definitely say that. And you talk about recruiting, man. We all know that's the lifeline of college athletics. You got to get good players, good people if you want to win. That's the end of the day. Everybody knows that's the bottom line. We're in the business of making sure we get good players, good people. Talk about your best and worst recruiting stories. And it could be, what's your philosophy and the thoughts you thought of recruiting, but it might be some stories that is just a little bit more interesting than others. But what was your best and worst recruiting stories?
Well, I'll say I'll start with the worst before I go with the best. So the worst story was getting a job, and we kind of got into that job a little late, and our staff did. And, a lot of times when you get a job late, you kind of get caught into that scramble mode of trying to get a player. And took some advice, listened to some people that I normally wouldn't listen to. So they sent us some film on a kid. Well, the kid wasn't as good as what he was advertised. When I tell you that highlight film of the kid was high major, it was high major. Great kid, and we ended up signing him, but didn't give us much on the floor as far as production. And that probably was the worst experience. That's why I think it's important when you evaluate, like, you shouldn't just go off a highlight film. But just because of the timing of when we got the job, we kind of had to just make do with what we got as far as that. And we didn't have a chance go see the kid play or anything like that. So that probably was the worst experience because the kid, not a bad player, not a bad kid. Talent level wasn't great, but if you saw his highlight film, you would have thought he was a high major player. So that's probably the worst experience that I've ever had. And I kind of take pride because I think you should always, when you watch a kid, make sure that you watch a full game and you watch them in more than one full game. You watch them in at least 2 or 3 full games so you can get a feel for the kid. Best experience was, it kind of was like an accident almost. One of my good friends, a junior college assistant coach at a high-level junior college, and his car, he had some issues with his car, and the Final Four was in New Orleans, and at the time I was in Baton Rouge at Southern, and it was my first year at Southern. And so I went and picked him up, took him to a shop so he could get his car looked at because he drove actually down here to the Final Four. And when I picked him up, took him to get something to eat, had a couple drinks, talked a little bit, and he told me he had a kid. Said, hey, I got a kid for you guys. I got a kid that's out there. I don't know if y'all can do anything with him because some things have happened with him in his past. And luckily, and the story will go on as we continue to talk, I worked for some guys that taken opportunities, second chances on kids. And so they told us about the kid. And to be honest with you, myself and the boss that I worked for at that time had actually saw the kid at a junior college jamboree in October. And a lot of times when you see something you really like, you like, well, I'm going to highlight his name, but like, man, I ain't going to have a shot at him. I mean, he was a 6'7" 2 guard, and, he's playing in a showcase game. He knocks down 4 threes. You like, well, hey, you never know, man, but it probably ain't going to happen. But so anyways, long story short, he tells me about the kid. He said they had to dismiss the kid. He said he was a great kid, but it was some things that he had done that they had to dismiss him. So he gave me the kid's information and got the kid's information, text him. We talked countless hours, had some stuff he had to get done so he could be graduated and eligible to play. And long story short, he ended up coming here. He had a great 2-year run. He was first team all-conference both years he was here. And he was newcomer of the year. And he had a great run while he was here. And he won a championship both years that he was here at Southern.
What was your, scout? Let me do this. We'll say, scout reports. We know that that's another thing that's big in this business. It's, being able to have your team prepared to play games. And you spend 7, 8, 9, 10 games watching film, and it's different coaches, different head coaches want different things when it comes to scouting. But at the same time, we know you got to relay that information to those kids so they can be prepared to play. Too much information is an overload. They know they're not going to get all of it, but you want to try to break it down where you got personnel, or you're talking about tendencies, or you're talking about play calls or actions. Like, talk about your best and worst scouting reports over the years.
Best scout, and actually lost the game. And I thought we had a team prepared as well as we possibly can. Was actually this year. We played the University of Nebraska, and we lost the game in overtime. And but we had things so prepared. Watching them, obviously they had a first-year coach that has NBA experience in Fred Hoiberg. So it was like their third game. So we kind of I had to kind of look at some of the stuff he did at Iowa State, some of the stuff he did with the Bulls, and then of course his first two games at Nebraska. And really, it was just the first game because the second game was like 2 days before our game. And so I thought we had done a good job of knowing what he likes to run, his sets, tendencies of which his team had, and thought we knew for the most part the personnel that they had brought in because they had a new team, and we did a great job. I mean, we were up at one point by 10 points with about 10 minutes left in the game, and man, I was devastated. You would thought we had lost the conference championship game when we lost the game. And even though we lost, I thought that we had done a great job of being prepared. And I work for the ultimate competitor, Sean Woods. And when he tells me, Ryan, keep your head up because you did a hell of a job having us prepared to win this game. When he tells me that, then I knew that we had done a good job. We just didn't close the deal out. That was on us. And to be honest with you, we beat ourselves at the end, just with some mistakes. Worst scouting report. I'll actually turn it back around. We won a game, but we beat a team really bad, and we weren't prepared. I mean, it was just basically a non-Division One, and we beat the team by some record numbers. And I mean, you just kind of the way we've all been taught, I think, in this business, when you kind of know you have an advantage on the team, talent-wise, is like, hey, have them scouted out like they the best. They look like the best thing since sliced bread, even though they look terrible. And that's some advice that I had gotten pretty much from all the guys that I've worked for. And so I'll say that we beat a team really bad my first stint at Southern, and but it was no preparation really put into it. Like, you sit there watching stuff, they don't run any sets. They just going up and down. They don't have not one player that gets you excited, but you got to get those guys prepared like they are really good. So I'm sitting there going through clips, going on Synergy, trying to clip things out, trying to make a clip tape, and I'm like, yo, I can't find nothing. Like, coach, we might not need to show this team. We might just have to talk about personnel, show them the paper scout, talk them up like they really, 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 really good, and go from there. So it's kind of a opposite thing. Best scout was we lost the game. Worst scout was winning the game. But I always try to be really prepared at any point with scouting reports.
Good stuff, man. What's the biggest challenge you think you've experienced since you've been in college coaching?
I think it's probably losing my job. I've had a couple of times where I faced adversity, and to be honest with you, being involved in a game and knowing college coaching and how it's been, I've been with my father when he's lost jobs. So, and he's always said, you have not been a real coach until you've been fired. And I followed that motto. He said that when I was in high school. That was before he even knew that I wanted to be a coach. And, you know, everybody isn't going to be like Coach K or Jim Boeheim. They ain't going to have 40, 50-year careers at one spot. Those days was very, very, very rare. So I've dealt with some adversity as far as losing jobs. And we all, you know, at some point feel like, hey, it's probably not deserving. But I've dealt with that. And I've just kept moving it. I've just kept it moving. You know, if you lose a job, you just gotta work, and you gotta hustle, or you gotta what's the next step going to be? You might not get another job in college coaching. I've lost jobs twice now, and uh, I didn't get a chance to go right back into college coaching. I had to take something, whether it was going the high school route, which I did both times, and then I had to do some odd end things. I had to train kids. Hell, I had to learn how to make snow cones because I had to work a snow cone stand on the weekends just so I could have some extra little money to put in my pocket. So, like, it's a grind. You know, you just got to learn how to handle adversity, handle those type things. Because as a coach, you're gonna run into a time where you're gonna lose a job, and you've got to be able to learn to adapt and adapt quickly.
So true, man. You're 100% right. Your dad gave you great information on that, even at a young age. Like, now, Ryan, do you ever find that there are things about you that people misunderstand? Like, I've been around you when you've been in the gym. You come in, you make sure you speak to everybody, you talk to everybody, then you're about your business. You know, and so, like, you know, or I know you're a personal person, but at the same time, you know you're about your business as well. But do you find there are things about you that people might misunderstand?
And I think that's kind of where I think there's kind of match of that. Like sometimes, you know, I think some people probably think at times I can kind of be standoffish. Like, but you know, face it, when we get in the gym, I just feel like it's business. Like you got to get in that gym and we got to grind. You know, if I see my guys in the gym, I'm going to sit there. I'll talk to them a little bit, but I'm going to also sit to the side and do what I need to do as far as work. I mean, we're in a business where when we were at an event, AAU, junior college, we had a high school game, and we're recruiting, we got to find players. And I always think like sitting over there at an event and you sitting there talking to your buddies and the action's going on right there and you turning over there looking, you're not getting anything done. And so I'm gonna be honest, I think that's what it is for me. Like that I'm probably sometimes standoffish and shit. If you don't know me, you think probably, I'm being cocky or arrogant. It's not that. I'm just trying to get work done. So we in the business of getting players. And shoot, if you over there, you want to sit there and gossip and talk with your buddies, then you ain't getting much done. So I think there's a time to enjoy yourself when you're on the road, but when you in the lines of being in that gym, in them hot days in July, man, you got to go and find players, and finding players ain't sitting there doing a bunch of talking and gossiping.
Love that answer, and you're so right about that. We're all educators, we're teachers in this business. You know, you've had great, I'll bring your dad up because he was a coach, but you also had other coaches that kind of groomed you as a kid, as a player coming up. So, whether you were, you probably had assistants that was there as well to help when you were in college. But like, what do you try to teach or educate your players on besides basketball?
I mean, it's more to it than basketball. Is like the most important thing is you got to grow to be a man. You got to grow to that pathway that will lead you to being a man. Like the basketball ain't gonna bounce all forever. The air and the ball is gonna go out. So guys' methods, guys need that guidance as far as what they need to do. I think that's what all assistant coaches have to teach them. And so, my main thing at least, is that, hey, it's more to it than basketball. If you want to be start a program for youth in your department, like we're gonna lead you into that direction I'm gonna lead you to that direction. I'm going to introduce you to people that's in Baton Rouge that have some programs that they do to mentor kids, uh, to show how they can improve communities. Like we've got a couple kids that's from the other part of the country. We got a kid from Los Angeles. We got a kid from Baltimore, and they want to. Their main thing, obviously, they want to play professional basketball, but they also want to um, they want to make sure that they do stuff to help their communities in Los Angeles, in Baltimore, to mentor kids, to start youth programs, that type thing. And they've already got it in their heads, and they're 21, 22 years old, what they want to do. So when they want to do that, I feel like for me, it's my job to try to put them in a position to meet people that can lead them and guide them in the direction of that. If that's something they want to do, then I'm gonna introduce them to people down here that can show them the way to doing that stuff. So that's what I would say.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. What are your best and worst memories in coaching?
Worst was my first year back here in 18. We played the University of Louisville, and man, they put it on us. That was one of the most embarrassing games ever. I hope you don't even look at the box score of that game. But we lost by more than 50 points. And I was like, man, it was just a show. And, you know, it was might have been like Chris Mack's second game as the head coach there. And, I mean, they just put us a beat down on us. That's probably been the worst moment as a coach in a game. Best moment, I've been lucky to be on some teams that won championships, but I would say honestly the best moment was in 13 when we reached the NCAA tournament, and just some of the experiences that we experienced in 13. We beat Gonzaga, or I'm sorry, I'm hoping we was beating Gonzaga. I still got it in my head, but we lost to Gonzaga by 6 points, and we were right there, and we were down 3 points with about 2 minutes left, and Pangos hits a little step back three in that corner right in front of the bench, man, and it took all the air out of us. But we were right there. I mean, the game was tied going into the last media timeout, and it, you know, even though we lost the game and we're not into moral. I'm not into moral victories, but I felt like we put a lot of people on notice of what we could do. And, you know, just some of the attention we got. I mean, we got tweets from Spike Lee, from Common. I mean, we got off the plane. We got right back off. As soon as we got back to Baton Rouge, I mean, one of our board members had read a text that President Obama had sent, saying, you know, as much as he picked Gonzaga in his bracket, he was rooting for us to go ahead and get an upset. So knowing that the President of the United States, Barack Obama, was sitting there watching your game in the March Madness and hoping you win a game meant so much. So it meant a ton to all of us. So, but yeah, that was one of the best moments, probably the best moment for sure. Even though, you know, the end outcome was not the best that we had hoped for.
I mean, that's still pretty big, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, anytime you get a chance to go to the tournament, and like you said, you was competing and you had a chance to win, that's huge, because it becomes not just big for the basketball program, but the whole Southern University, you know, school, community, alums. I mean, that stuff is huge when it comes to that. So a lot of people don't understand that. And I asked this question, I'd like to ask is a little different. Like, what's the strangest or the weirdest, wildest, craziest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court? Something you like, wow, I couldn't believe this kid did this. Or You've been in it for a while, so I'm sure you've seen some things.
Okay, so this was when I coached at the Division II level. So one of our kids had some issues with a girl that he was dating, and we were actually in the middle of practice, and the kid's girlfriend came into the practice, interrupted practice, matter of fact, and basically has said that he had spread something to her. And so we had that experience happen in the middle of practice. And my head coach at the time was like, hey, man, like, he's like, his eyes is about to pop out of his head. And I'm like, listen, I got to figure something out. So I'm a young guy at that time. I'm 24 years old myself. And like, I had to take her out and like, hey, I had to try to break things down and smooth things on. But she came in there and she was on fire because she had, and I'm not trying to be funny by saying she was on fire, but she literally came in there and told him, you gave me something. And I mean, that's the craziest thing that I've ever experienced. And I've seen some things that's happened, but that's probably by far the craziest deal. Like seeing a player's girlfriend come into the gym during the middle of practice and basically want to whoop him for some stuff that he was doing on the side.
That's a little different. Because I mean, for her to come into the practice, she definitely didn't care. She didn't care at all.
She didn't care. She was looking to go crazy on him. So, but and to be honest with you, he was our best player. So So we definitely had to try to dissolve the situation and get everything fixed. So it was my deal, man. I was like, yo, I gotta bring her out because she didn't come alone. So that was the other thing. She didn't come alone. She had a friend with her. So I had to pull him outside and just kind of tell him, like, I understand you're angry, but it's a time and a place, and if it's something you need one of us to obviously talk to him about, then we'll do that. So
Awesome. Well, look, I know this, and I like to ask this because it's also, to me, I think you got aspirations of being a head coach. I mean, that's what it is. You're gonna pick your dad's mind. You're gonna pick some other guy's mind too. I mean, your dad he's been through it, so he's the number one guy you're going to. But who else are you like? You just say, Dad, I want to go outside of you. If you had a chance to sit down with 3 guys besides your dad and Coach Woods, because he's pretty good as well. But like, if you had a chance to sit down with 3 guys, for dinner and pick their brain about what they've gone through as a head coach, trying to figure out again your niche, what you want to do. Who would those 3 guys be? And it could be past, present. Like, who would you want to sit down and pick their brains and talk to?
One would be, since you said past, one would obviously be, for me, I think Nolan Richardson. I think Coach Richardson set the bar for all minority coaches. And so I would definitely want to pick his brain. That's something, honestly, I really, to this day, want to do is talk to him and see his mentality on it. And, obviously my story is different because I've been around it. So I've seen and met a lot of these coaches, but I haven't gotten a chance to, like, listen to them. But one guy that I have picked his brain is Coach Mike Davis at Detroit. And I think it's because he's so genuine and he's going to tell it like it is. And he's going to give it to you real. And I'm appreciative of that. And he does that to me to this point. And so he'll be another person that I would go to. And then the third coach would honestly probably be probably Coach John Thompson, to be honest with you. That would be another person. So I know those are kind of like the monumental guys, but those guys would all be, obviously their stories and what they've endured in the nature of the business. And like I said, I've been lucky. I have my father that I can go to. I got Coach Woods who I can go to. And those guys are monumental, and they helped me so much. But I think those three, if I could sit down and be at a table, it would be Coach Thompson, Nolan Richardson, and Mike Davis, and just pick their brains.
Good stuff, man. What's your favorite word or phrase you like to use? I mean, I'm sure you've been around the players, and the players probably they probably can mock you, man. They probably can make fun of you, but yeah, what's your favorite word or phrase?
Well, I think it's something that we go about in our program, and that's accountability. And that's probably the word that I use is big with Coach Woods is accountability, and that's for everybody. I mean, coaches holding other coaches accountable, coaches holding players accountable, and sometimes players got to hold coaches accountable on a lot of things. If something's slipping, you got to tell, hey, we need this to set the tone for us to be a championship team. So, and I think that's probably one of the common denominators for a team that's won a championship is being accountable. So I would say my key word would be accountability.
Awesome. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
It probably is what we talked about earlier. You haven't been a coach until you've been fired. And I think that resonates a lot because I would say most coaches that have been through this, over half of them have been fired. But it's how you bounce back from that. Are you gonna fold and not try to fight it and try to keep your niche going, or are you gonna go ahead and bounce back and do what you got to do? So that's something that I heard from my dad. He's been through it. Hell, he'll tell you. We were on a family Zoom a while back, and he was talking about how the places he was fired at and all of that. And he's been fired 4 times. And he said, man, that every time I've gotten fired, all that's done is woken me up and made me even stronger. And that's the same for me. I've been in positions and places before that we've lost jobs and or I've lost a job, and I had to bounce back. So that kind of goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier.
So you're not a self-promoter. Like I said, you don't, like I think you've done some wonderful things since this pandemic, like with the Zoom that you have. Done a tremendous job, let's grow. And but like what if you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, like which would you choose?
Persistent. I think that's just the nature you got to have as a coach anyways. You got to be somebody that's persistent and after what you're trying to get done. I would say a team player. I'm always about, the growth of a staff. Like, I don't think, if you're on a staff and let's just say you get an honor, I don't think it's about you. I think it's about everybody that's on that staff. Like if you're a head coach and you get coach of the year, I think that's a staff thing. You know, if you're an assistant coach and you get named on one of these lists that's all going on during pandemic, like that's everybody on your staff. Everybody contribute to the success of the program. So I would say team player, and you always want to look out for your coworkers, because at the end of the day, you all got to be on the same page for you to win a championship. And then I would also say loyalty. That's the nature of this business. You can't be a great assistant coach if you're not a loyal guy. If you're a guy that doesn't have loyalty to your head coach, you're not gonna make it in this business. It's just not gonna happen. And you know that's gonna be the number one question that somebody asks you. So I've always made it a habit to always have my head coach's back in any regards. I'm not saying it ain't gonna be rocky patches. You know what I'm saying? You're not always gonna agree with everything with your head coach, but at the end of the day, you gotta have your head coach's back, and he's gotta know that you got his back. So I would say that would be the three adjectives that I would use to describe myself in this business.
Three great ones as well, man. What qualities do you value in the people with whom you spend time?
Probably loyalty. Like you got to know who's got your back. You know, you got to know that the people that you value, the people that you're close to, that they are number one, that they have your back at all times. And I'll kind of explain a little bit with my family and stuff. Like I've been in a position like I've lost my job when I first started dating my wife. At the time it was my girlfriend, but we first started dating, and I knew my wife had my back because she could have easily been like, this dude, he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have this, but she had my back. And that's how I knew my wife was going to be my wife, because she was loyal to me when I was going through a rough patch, when I didn't have a job. She was in there looking for classifieds. She was on NCAA.org looking at jobs. Whether she knew I could get the jobs, and I'm sitting there telling her and saying, hey, that ain't how you get jobs in this business, by going to the classifieds at NCAA.org. But she had my back. She was going to make sure that you want to be a coach, we're going to make sure we find a position for you to be a coach. So I value things like that. I value the loyalty of anybody, somebody that I know is going to have your back through thick and thin. And obviously, you know, we're in a business where everybody isn't loyal, but you gotta pick the people that you can tell will have your back through anything.
I agree with you 100%, man. What person or persons and or event has had the most influence on your life?
I will say this. I'm gonna go my family, my wife and my daughter. They've definitely helped me in so many ways, man. They've taught me the importance of having patience. My wife has helped me a ton with that. And when you have a 2-year-old daughter, and you know, because before we got on this, LB, I had my daughter ripping and running all over. But you got to have patience. So they've helped me and showed me a lot. I got a 2-year-old, so you know everything is predicated to her and to my wife. So they're important. And I'll name drop 3 guys. Obviously, my dad, so I won't name drop him. So that's one of the guys. But Coach Woods and Coach Banks have been important. They've taught me everything along the way as far as the things that I need in order for me to be successful in this business.
Now I'm gonna ask you this, because you've been in it. You saw it growing up, but now you're in it and you're doing it. You're living it. But how has coaching affected your life? Not when your dad's like, but how has coaching affected your life? And it's different.
Uh, it's taught me about growth, about helping young guys. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Is helping our young guys, helping our guys, and um, it's taught me the importance of relationships and loving everybody that you're in contact with, obviously with your family, your program. Like for me, um, our guys, when they finish up school, I want to make sure I'm still a vital part of what they're trying to do. So whether that's graduating or whether that's them getting a job. Before we even got on here today, one of my players had sent me a picture of his daughter that was just born, and those are the things that you do this for. That's what I really feel like that's what it's about. So coaching has taught me so much about loving others. It's pushed you in a position where you have contact with people that you probably would never have contact with ever if it was for coaching. Whether it's your players, whether it's your players' parents, whether it's your players' siblings, and just maintaining those relationships. Those relationships are huge. And so that's something that coaching has taught me.
Great stuff. What energizes you and brings you excitement?
My family. That's what gets me going. When I have a home game, when I walk out that tunnel, first thing I'm doing before I go shake hands, I'm going to look for my daughter. I want to make sure my daughter's there. I'll text my wife all the way up until that last time it's time to go in that huddle. I'm like, where are y'all at? Because I got to see my daughter. And luckily, I got a family that's supportive. They come on the road, and that's the same way. If it's a conference game, they're going to be at that conference game. But that's something that gets me ready and hyped up for a game. It gets me going. Is just seeing my wife and my daughter more than anything. So
that's awesome right there. So you already you won before it was started, and you know what? And if you do lose, if they're staying around, especially a home game,
yeah,
you know what? Nothing will still take your joy when you see them after the games. That's what people don't understand when you got family there.
yep.
Like that can you can go from being upset to being, it could change a little bit. You could be upset about the win, but you ain't gonna be as angry when you see that smile.
Yeah, yeah. You know how that goes. It'll be like, that's the biggest thing. Like you wanna, a loss is tough. We all know that can be tough, and it can be time consuming. You could be in that office for 4 or 5 hours, so you at least wanna, before you go into that office to meet and do whatever you got to do, just seeing your family, your wife, your daughter, if you got, son, whatever the case may be, those things keep you, at least gets you a little bit up and excited a little bit.
Yes, it does. You're 100% right. Like knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self to prepare for as an assistant coach? Because you after a while, you probably knew you wanted to coach.
Mm-hmm.
You had seen it all your life, but now you jumped into it. And now it's like here, like, what would you tell your younger self, man, as you starting out in this business?
Man, just be humble, man. Be humble, man. And I guess I call myself still like a relatively young guy, even though I've been in it. I'm going to year 14 for me, but just be humble. Like, I wish I would have done that a little bit more when I was younger. And sometimes, you're a young guy, That happens a lot in this business. And you have a little bit of success, you start to smell yourself. And like that ain't the route to always go. Like you've gotta be a humble person. If you're gonna make any steps in this business to going to the next level, you gotta be humble because you never know when something goes wrong and you get knocked down a peg. And what are you gonna do then? So, you know, I would definitely tell myself that if I hadn't went through the tribulations that I went through, um, probably in the middle of my coaching career, as far as getting fired, that type of thing, I probably would have never learned that. But the best thing for me, the best thing that probably happened for me, and I've said this to countless other people, was me losing my job because it taught me how to be more humble and to be more grounded.
Good stuff right there, man. Well, look, Ron, I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Is there anything you want to say to the people before we go?
Man, I just want to tell you, man, I appreciate you, LB, man. It's awesome that you had me. I'm just glad that I was on here. It's awesome what you're doing, and you're giving a platform for assistant coaches to share their stories and their journeys in this profession. And you know, we all should be appreciative of what you're doing. And you know, if you're a young guy, you definitely need to make sure that you tune into these because it's not as easy as what you look as it looks. Just trying to be a college coach, you know, it's more to it than the glitz and the glamour. Sometimes guys just look at all these high majors things, and you ain't gonna start out being a high major assistant. You gotta go through the struggles of whether it's being a Division II, a junior college. You might be a video coordinator at a low major. You might be a low major assistant, but the chances of you becoming a high major guy right at the gates ain't gonna happen. So you gotta learn how to do all the things that it takes to be a grinder and go through learning how to do film, how to do team meals, how to do team travel, how to set up equipment, how to do practice plans. You got to learn how to do all those little things. And once you pick those things up, then you'll be blessed to get higher opportunities for yourself.
So true, man. And you're welcome, man, for coming on. And thanks for dropping those nuggets again at the end. Appreciate that anytime. I mean, like you said, these young guys need to be watching, need to learn to understand a lot of stuff in this business. So, but like I said, thanks again. Thank you, viewers, for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guests as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.